In the following video, we're going to draw a scatter plot, find a prediction equation, and use that equation to make a prediction. So we're going to need our graphing calculators as before to assist us with verifying that our scatter plot is sketched properly and to find our prediction equation. So make sure you have your graphing calculator with you. We're going to go through the steps again on how to use the calculator to assist with this. So please follow along and make sure you are doing it appropriately. So let's start. Draw a scatter plot and find a prediction equation to show the relationship of time studying and grades. And then find how much studying is needed for 97%. So there are three things we're going to do. Draw a scatter plot, find a prediction equation, and then use the given information to make a prediction. So let's first just draw the scatter plot by hand. So we're studying 3 hours, so that is going to be my x, and then my grades are going to be my y. So just as we've done before, when you're given a graph, you want to make sure you have your x and y axes labeled. So then my x axis is the studying in hours, and my y axis is my grade. And so what I'm going to do is just label my points. So studying 3 hours, you get a 65%. So here's a 66, so there's a 65. At 4 hours, 71%, here's 70, so here's 71. At 6 hours, we're all the way up to a 79%. 9 hours is an 87%. And then 11 hours is a 92%. And so here is my scatter plot. And so the first thing that we examine is to make sure that we know how to input the data in our calculator. So when we did this before, we take our calculator and we're going to put our x values in our L1 list and our y values in our L2 list. So the way we do that is we hit Stat, choose Edit, and we're going to input our x values in L1. So I'm going to do 3, 4, 6, 9, and 11. And make sure we hit Enter after each one to store them in the list. And then the right arrow for our L2, our y values, which are 65, 71, 79, 87, and 92. So now all of that information is stored in our lists. And that's going to help us, one, sketch the graph with our calculator to make sure it's right. And then it's going to help us, two, to make the prediction equation. So first thing we're going to want to do is sketch it with our calculator. And so remember what we did last time is last time we had this, we turned on our stat plots. So above your y equals, you see in blue stat plot. So I'm going to hit second stat plot. And since I've turned my calculator off since then, my stat plots is turned off. Primarily since I had to restart the computer before it is turned off. So I always want to check this in case something happens to my calculator. Otherwise, I wouldn't get any plots done. So I need to turn this on. So I'm going to hit Enter. And I'm going to choose the on option. Remember we said before, this is our scatter plots. We're not going to change this. This is telling us where to grab our x and y values, which is accurate, and how to plot the point, which we are just going to use this one. So our graph, our options should look like this when turning on our stat plot. All you have to do is just choose the on option. And then what we do is we go to zoom, and zoom 9 is zoom stat. And remember that changes your window size to try and fit the statistical data in the table. So I'm going to hit enter on zoom stat, and we see my graph. I could drag it down here and compare them since this is not this not as wide as the other one. It's a little bit different, but we see the points do match up. So here is my stat plot itself. That's inputting the data. And we changed our window size and we just checked the graph itself. So here we did that all at one time. And now we're going to find our prediction equation. This allows us to kind of see we have what looks like positive correlation. The values are increasing from left to right. And so we do have a positive correlation with our data. And so now we're going to find our prediction equation, our line of best fit, to help us out. So we're trying to calculate the linear regression equation. And to do that with our calculator, we're going to follow the same steps as we did before. Let me hit second quit just to go back to my main screen. To calculate our linear regression equation, you're going to hit Stat, go to the Calculate menu, and we're going to scroll down to where it says Linear Regression, AX plus B. And we're going to hit Enter. Again, I have the updated operating system for my calculator, and so my setup is a little bit different. For those without the updated operating system, remember you will be given a sheet of directions on how to input them in your calculator with the old one. So all this is saying is my L1 list contains my X values. That's correct. My L2 contains my Y values. That's correct. We don't care about the frequency list. Now the store regression equation we're going to do. And the way we're going to store our regression equation is by hitting our vars button, going over to the Y variables, Y vars, and let's choose function. And in the function, we want to store our linear regression equation in Y1 itself. So I'm going to hit enter there. So I have my X values, my Y values, and I'm telling my calculator where to store the equation it's about to calculate itself. So that is how we go about using the linear regression calculate feature. Put your X values in your L1, Y values in your L2, store the regression equation in your Y1, and then we're going to choose our calculate. And now we can see our linear regression equation. We see that it is y equals, I'm going to say 3.27, the 5 rounds up to 6, x plus 57.25, the 7 rounds up the 4. And so now I have my regression equation. If we go back to our calculator and we were to hit the graph button, we would see, since we stored our regression equation in our Y1, we told the calculator to do that automatically, it actually graphs the regression equation for us. It graphs that line of fit. And so now I can see where it goes in relationship to all the points. And I'm going to go back up and I'm going to do the same on my graph. I'm going to sketch my line of best fit. And since the line of best fit has a positive slope, we can see it's a positive correlation. We can even see it has a positive slope based off of it being 3.27x. And so that is our prediction equation. So we sketched the graph, we found our prediction equation, and the next thing we're going to want to do is use the prediction equation to make a prediction. And the prediction we're asked to make comes from the part of the problem that says, find out how much studying is needed for a 97%. And so in my prediction equation, remember we labeled our x-axis as our time, so X is time, and our Y-axis as our grade as a percent. And so what I'm going to do is I want to know how much time is needed. So I want to know X to get a 97%. So I'm given Y. So I'm going to plug my Y value in to this 97 and equals, and I'm going to solve for my X, 3.27X plus 57.25. So I'm going to subtract 57.25 from both sides, and I'm going to get 39.75 equals 3.27x. And I can take and divide 39.75 by 3.27. 39.75 divided by 3.27, and I get 12.155, which gives me 12.16. So my X is equal to 12.16, which is the number of hours needed. So you need to study 12.16 hours to get a 97% on a test. That makes good sense. So next time we have our chapter test, when we have our chapter 2 test, make sure if you want to get that 97% that you study for 12.16 hours. In all seriousness, make sure you follow this video on how to sketch a scatter plot. Input the data in your L1, L2 values. You had nice video shots of it, and I have some screenshots of what your calculator should look like at each step, and then how to use it to find the prediction equation. And like I said, if you have the old operating system, which does not pull up this menu, you will have a list given to you on how to go about doing the same thing. And then when you get that prediction equation, all you have to do is plug in what you're given and solve for what you're trying to find to actually make the prediction itself. So I hope you find this helpful. I hope that you went through and were able to use your calculator to assist with all of these steps. If you're still stuck, then try and go back to the previous example that we did, the previous video that goes through the steps as well.